Welcome back to the channel and to another WNBA video. We got a nice 3-game slate for Friday, August 16th to go over. Break down and analyze each of those games. We'll talk about which way that I'm leaning as far as the points and the spread. We'll also talk about any player props that I have found for these games that I'm liking, and then any plays that I put in officially myself, I will list down below in that pinned comment. So make sure you check back in, that way you can see if you'd like to ride along with me. And before we dive into these games, let's go over what we took yesterday. It was definitely not a day to ride along with me, man. I had the Sky in the first quarter on the money line. Heading into the break, the last 10 games, they had hit this at a 90% rate, both on the money line and against the spread. That comes to a crashing halt against Phoenix, man. They got absolutely annihilated in that first quarter, and then throughout the rest of that game, the Mercury just smoked them. So we don't hit on that one. We also took Ka Copper in this game, under 1.5 3-pointers. Man, I know better than the fade Kyle. This is my favorite player in the game, dude. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I saw the numbers, and the numbers looked good for this, right? 80% of the time in her last 10, she's hit under this mark. And I watch a lot of Mercury games. I watch a lot of WNBA games as it is. And consistently, she breaks her defender down off the dribble. She's constantly getting to the rim because she's just quicker than everyone else, man. She's got great ball handling skills. A lot of layups, a lot of mid-range jumpers. You don't consistently see her shooting the three, man. She'll shoot them when she's open, like I said in the video yesterday, but you just don't consistently see her shooting them. And I swear, man, it's like somebody showed her this video from yesterday before they stepped foot out on the court, right? It was like somebody was like, hey, man, this cat says you don't shoot a lot of three-pointers. And she was like, bet. I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him. And she did, man. She did. Look, if you took the over in Kyle's threes, you cashed this within like a couple minutes, man. It's like 8 minutes to go in the first quarter. She already was sitting on 2 of them. So we do not hit on that one. Mystics and Lynx, we took the full game under 156.5, and we do cash. Thankfully, man, because our last pick on the night was the Sparks plus 11. Now, at the time of recording, the Liberty and the Sparks are still playing, but unless the Sparks have like the fourth quarter of a lifetime, man, I'm not hitting on this one. They are currently down 34 after 3. 34. Yeah. So like I said, man, they better have the fourth quarter of a lifetime if we want to split on the night and go 2-2. But most likely we are looking at a 1-3 start in our return to WNBA action. It sucks, obviously, but we put a half unit on everything yesterday in anticipation of, hey, there was a month off in between things. We might be a little rusty here. We might see things a little wrong, and obviously saw things a little bit wrong yesterday. So we're going to bounce back today, man, get right back to it. So without further ado, let's dive into our picks for today. First game we're going to be looking at is the Phoenix Mercury and the Indiana Fever. The Fever are laying 3.5 in this one. We have an over-under sitting at 175.5. Now, the Mercury will be on a back-to-back here. Obviously, they just played and beat the hell out of the Sky, like we just talked about. They're fresh off of that win in Chicago. The Mercury have played just one back-to-back on the year. They lost both of those games, the first to the Fever, and then the second by 11 to the Sun. Both of those losses occurred at home. This one's on the road. Phoenix is only 5-8 on the road this year, but they are 7-6 to the number. Becca Allen and Charisma Osborne are listed out for Phoenix, with Tammy Fogg-Benley listed as out for Indiana. Now, while the Mercury were the only team to draw a back-to-back fresh off of that Olympic break, on the road on top of that, Indiana is far more fortunate, man. They're coming back with 2 home games and then a day of rest in between those as well. The Fever had that rough start to the year. They really had 0 time to get a practice in even to begin the year, right? The W made a huge effort schedule-wise to capitalize on Caitlin Clark and the exposure she brings to the league. And the Fever just in turn, they played a significant amount more of games to begin the season as compared to the rest of the W. They were fatigued, man, with no real time to gel as a unit, and it showed early. Poor offensive rhythm, a ton of turnovers, and just horrid defense. So after a 3-10 start, they are since 8-5, 9-4 to the number, and while the defense still needs a good bit of attention, this offense has made huge strides. And that's obviously been led by Clark as she gets more adjusted to the pros, the physicality, and the speed of the league. Her shooting is what garners all the attention, right? And rightfully so. She's obviously got a great jumper. But I'm always most impressed by her ball vision, and she's really mastered that pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston in a short period of time. These two are a nice 1-2 punch, man. This is going to be the third meeting between these two on the year, and the Fever have come away the victor in those first 2. They took the first meeting in Phoenix by 6 as 8-point dogs, and then they covered the 2 points they were laying in the second meeting in Indiana with ease by 9. And honestly, that game wasn't even that close. Indiana really took their foot off the gas late. They allowed the Mercury to beat them in the fourth quarter of that game by 14 points because they entered the fourth quarter up by 23. So while beating a team 3 times in a row is always a challenge, I'm still leaning Indiana in this one. The Fever have played in front of what amounts to home crowds, even on the road, but the environment in Indiana for their home games and the energy and the boost that they receive from their fans can't be denied. They are 6-1 to the number at home in their last 7. The Mercury are just 3-4 over the last 7 on the road. So considering the biggest thing holding Indiana back early was a lack of practice and time to build chemistry, I can't help but think that they come out of this break a little bit better and a little bit stronger of a unit as a whole. We started to see them really gel offensively heading into the break. Imagine what a month's worth of time can do. Man, it could be scary. And then you couple in the fact that Phoenix just annihilated Chicago. They're on a back-to-back. Huge potential for a letdown here, in my opinion. So I'm definitely going to be leading Indiana. But that defense of Indiana, that leads me into the total here. And how can you look anywhere but an over with the two of these teams, right? With that said, it's obviously a high number. So one, I'll tread with caution. We would need both teams to hit at 80 at the least. One of them to hit 90 if one of the other teams lands in the low 80s. So it could be a sweat, but I mean, that's what these teams do, right? They don't beat you by stopping you. They'll give you bucket after bucket, and they're just going to try to outscore you. It's funny to say that because that's the entire idea of sports, right, is to try to outscore the opposition. But I think you get what I'm saying here. Neither team is trying to emulate the 04 Pistons and beat you on the defensive end, right? They're trying to run and gun and outscore you. Then a player prop I'm looking at is Aaliyah Boston over 16.5 points. Now, she's hit this in 4 of her last 5 games, right? We see this down below. She's hit it in 7 of her last 10. Okay, and then if we look at Phoenix against forwards, they are 11th. That is second to last in points allowed. I mean, a lot is screaming that Aaliyah Boston is going to have a good game against Phoenix here. One of these awesome, here we go again, one of these awesome outlier insights. Now, guys, if you don't know about outlier, make sure that you hop into that description down below. There will be a link, and you can get a free 7-day trial. Man, outlier is great. They pop up these little insights here and there, right? And this one's great here. Aaliyah Boston has exceeded 16.5 points in 4 of her last 5 games versus bottom 5 defenses for points allowed. Phoenix does fall into that category, and she's hitting at an 80% rate in those games, averaging 18.8 points per game. We also can look at her head-to-head against Phoenix, and both times on the year, she has cleared that number. These are from last year. Aaliyah Boston was obviously a rookie last year, playing a smaller role. But this year against Phoenix, like I said, she has hit in both occasions. So I definitely like this one here. I think this is definitely worth a look. We can get it right now, minus 120. The next game we're going to be looking at is the Seattle Storm versus the Atlanta Dream. The Storm are laying 7 in this one, and we have an over-under sitting at 159. These two, they entered into the break on 2 different paths. The Storm won 8 of their last 10. The Dream lost 9 of their last 10. Now, this is going to be the first of a 3-game road trip for Seattle, and the Dream are on the first game of a 5-game homestand. Now, they've met once on the year so far, and it was in each team's second to last game before the break. Seattle won that one at home by 11, but they failed to cover the 14-point spread that they were given, and they failed to do so against what at the time was a pretty injury-riddled Atlanta team. For this matchup, though, we're going to see the return of Ryan Howard, who did play in the 3-on-3 side of things in the Olympic Games. Atlanta is currently listing guard Jordan Canada as a game-time decision. No new injuries to report for Seattle, though. The Dream have thrived in the mid-range on the year, man. They attempt and make the most field goals per game from that area. That's really where the good news comes to an end for Atlanta, and honestly, we can't even really call it good news going up against Seattle. The Storm give up the fewest makes from the mid-range and at the lowest shooting percentage overall in the league. Atlanta's offense has been atrocious, man, for much of this year in all other respects, too. They are shooting a league worst 41% from the field overall, second worst 30% from downtown, and this is resulting in a worse than the W 75 points per game. And worse by a long shot, the next closest team is the Sparks. They have a full 4-point advantage over them. This game will be predicated by defense, though. Atlanta has played decent on that side of the ball, and a lot of what Seattle does well offensively, Atlanta defends well. Seattle shoots the 3 at the lowest percentage in the W, and they rely really heavily on scoring in the paint and in transition. They are third in the W in points scored off of turnovers, third in second chance points, and second as far as points in the paint. Atlanta is giving up the second fewest points in the paint, though. The third fewest second chance points. But the thing is, this is almost a situation of like anything you can do, I can do better. As Seattle still tops Atlanta defensively in almost any statistical category that you look at. Lower opponent shooting percentage, less assists given up, less points allowed, all while forcing the most turnovers and leading the league in steals and blocks. The only thing that throws me off from back in Seattle here fully, it's just the returns of Ryan Howard and potentially Jordan Canada as well. And Atlanta kept things close with Seattle for much of that previous meeting without them. And that was in Seattle too, where the Storm have been pretty dominant on the year. They've gone 11-3 straight up at home, while just 6-5 on the road. Just 1-4 to the number over their last 5 road games as well. So the thing is, we look at Atlanta on the year against this number here at 7. They have failed to cover that specific number in 73% of their games played. So a slight Seattle lean full game. But I think I like them early the most in this one, and I would look to avoid a backdoor cover if I play anything in this game. In their last 10 at home specifically, the Dream have only covered this 3.5 points that they were getting in the first half at a 20% rate, while the Storm are hitting this at a 60% rate. The Storm have done me dirty on some first half plays though. Earlier in the year, I'm pretty sure I took them against Atlanta in this game. I might have had a team total in there, something, man. I lost a bet somewhere on that game, so maybe I just feel a little bit scorned. But I am feeling a little gun shy still with this one. For the total, though, I'll lean under. This is one that I don't feel too strongly about either. And here's why. Both of these teams, if we look at them in their 5 games leading up to the break, Seattle on the road and Atlanta at home, we see them both hitting over this total at an 80% clip. But me personally, I'm not getting behind either of these offenses. This is a low number, though, for an under, and it would be a complete sweat if you went that direction as well. So total-wise, I'll lean under, but I'll probably just stay away personally. And for a player prop in this one, I'd be looking at Ryan Howard under 15.5 points. Now, here's another awesome insight from Outlier, man. Gotta love it. Ryan Howard has failed to exceed 15.5 points in 5 straight games versus top 5 defenses for points allowed. She's actually averaged only 9 points in those games. So 100% hit rate over the 5 games that she's played in that respect. And then if we look over here, Seattle ranks 3rd against guards as far as points allowed. So, I like this one, especially if we can catch this at minus 105. Those are some beautiful odds right there with some great value for us. So I definitely have my eye on this one here. And then the last game on the slate that we are looking at is going to be the Connecticut Sun taking on the Dallas Wings in Dallas. And we have the Sun laying 5.5 with an over-under at 161. The Sun will be on the road for 2 straight with a day of rest in between, starting here in Dallas against the Wings. Dallas has a tough stretch out of the break, man. After Connecticut, they travel to New York for back-to-back games against the league best Liberty. Schedule makers hate them, right? The Sun will look a little differently in this one from what we've seen on the year as well. In the backcourt specifically, as out is Mariah Jefferson and Rachel Bonham. In is Marina Mabrey after a trade with Chicago right before the break. But the Sun will also be without Tiffany Mitchell. She's out with illness, and also Dejounte Carrington, who's away from the team for personal reasons. So the backcourt duties are going to fall on the newly acquired Mabrey, Tasha Harris, and backup, and also former Dallas Wing Veronica Burton. Dallas should see some players return to action as well. Sato Sabali, Jaylen Brown are both probable, while Maddie Segrist seems to, she's still a little bit away, right? She's listed as doubtful. She has that broken finger. But with their returns, Sabali and Jaylen Brown, came the release of Monique Billings and also Odyssey Sims, who had become their second leading scorer in her time with the team. It's one of those situations where both were under hardship contracts, and in order to keep either of them, someone else would have had to been released on Dallas. So just a tough break for Dallas there. Both of them had really stepped into their roles nicely for the team when they were really just ravished by injuries and needed somebody to step up. They both really did. But the Sun have been one of the best teams in the W, a top defensive team all year. They are second in terms of net rating, and they are the only team currently in the top 3 as far as offensive and defensive ratings. They play at the slowest pace in the W, and they use that strong defense and interior play to bully opponents, man. They give up a league low 72 points per game on the fewest made field goals and the second fewest three-pointers made. They allow the fewest points in transition off of the fast break and the second fewest points in the paint. This does not bode well for a Dallas team that thrives off of points in the paint and second chance opportunities. They grab the second most offensive rebounds, and that leads to the most second chance points. But the Sun are allowing the fewest rebounds per game and the second fewest second chance points. The Wings do hit the third most shots from the mid-range, but they do so at the third lowest shooting percentage as well. But with all that said, Dallas does have a guard in Enrique Agumbawale that can just light it up. And with the missing pieces in that Connecticut backcourt, especially a star defender like Carrington, it scares me to look at Connecticut full game here. They came into the break just 3-7 to the number in their last 10, and call me crazy. I probably am. But I get this feeling that Dallas can cover here, and I'm tempted to look at them with the points. It's crazy, I know. Sabale adds another interior presence, though, and she's got a really nice jumper as well. Her return is huge for Dallas, man. She averaged 18 and 8 last year. I don't know. You look at this, her alongside Tierra McCowan and Natasha Howard. All of a sudden, the wings don't look so bad down low in the post. So I don't know. I don't know if I can get there. Maybe I can find the courage to pull the trigger, but I'm definitely leaning Dallas in this spot, specifically this spot right here, man. Connecticut is the far better team overall. Don't get it twisted, man. I'm not saying the Wings are the better team, but I could see them keeping it close in this one. For a total, 161 in a Sun game feels high, but if Dallas keeps this close, it's going to be by their offense, right? They're going to look to push the pace, get Connecticut in transition, as opposed to letting them set up that half-court defense and push them around all game, because that's what Connecticut's going to want to do. Really just comes down to who do you think controls this game, right? Who comes out on top? If you're on Connecticut, you probably like the under. They've hit this number, under this number, 80% of the time in their last 10, while if you like Dallas, you like them to keep this one close, you're probably on an over. Dallas has hit over this number in 10 straight. And they have hit over in 8 of their last 10 at home as well. I'm not seeing any player props in this one that I like either. So that is going to wrap us up for this video here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the content, man. If you found it helpful or useful, if you liked it in any kind of way, please don't forget to smash the like button down below and hit subscribe if you have not already. That way you do not miss out on any of the content that we are dropping here daily. That's going to do it, guys. Bet responsibly. Let's have a great day. Let's bounce back good, man. We need to bounce back strong and cash tonight. I'll see you guys on the next video, man. Have a great night.